Hi, I'm Dr. David Dobson. Welcome to Conversations. Today, my guest is Dr. Mehmet Yanit. Mehmet is a marketing researcher and instructor. He earned his PhD from University of Manitoba. His research focuses on human-AI interactions, power status hierarchies, and crisis management. He has published and presented his research in journals and conferences. In our conversation today, we will discuss Mehmet's PhD research on consumer reaction to corporate social responsibility communication during a crisis. It's a great pleasure to have you with me today, Mehmet.
Hi, Dr. Dobson. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Can you begin by explaining to us what CSR communications is, Mehmet?
Surely. CSR communications are, in other words, corporate social responsibility communications are the type of communications that companies pursue to articulate how they are returning back to the communities. So they're pretty much trying to say to the communities that, hey, we don't see you as a mere profit source, but also when the time comes, we help you with our altruistic philanthropic behaviors. In those regards, most of the time, corporate organizations are seeking reputational benefits, to be honest. And the communications are there for this purpose. They communicate their behavior, they communicate their altruistic behavior because they want to collect reputational benefits in the long run, in the eyes of the public. They want to be perceived as companies with goodwill, and they expect those reputational benefits to affect their sales in the longer run, maybe. Uh, from this perspective, I can say that yes, altruistic behavior is very beneficial for the communities. Yes, companies are coming back and giving back to the communities when they need it. It is great, but it is great when the action is taken sincerely. So the communication itself by itself doesn't mean anything actually. Communication is there to only benefit to the company.
Why are such communication efforts important during a crisis?
It is particularly important during a crisis because normally CSR communications can be pursued anytime throughout the year. To be honest, it doesn't need to be in a crisis time, but it is particularly important during a crisis because during a crisis, the society at large is suffering. So people are the losing side of that crisis. They're losing their lives, they're losing their comfort, they're losing financial resources, etc. Right? So in that situation, uh, pushes the society towards finding a responsible entity for the situation. So they need help and they need to put the blame on someone or something. Many times this situation is a psychological mechanism, and the direct target of this psychological mechanism is the organizations, because organizations are always the strong entities in the marketplace. They're occupying a stronger position. They have money. They are not human beings that are affected that much from the crisis. Many times they're on the winning side, so they feel the pressure, they feel the expectancy from the public towards performing CSR activities and communicating now. And that's why during the crisis situations, companies are feeling even greater pressure to communicate their CSR activities. Uh, Other thing, why is it particularly important to investigate during a crisis? Because, as I said, during a crisis, even in natural crisis scenarios,
Mhm,
winning and losing status becomes an important point. So some companies win
mhm,
in the crisis environment, whereas some companies loses.
mhm,
The situation is because in the natural crisis environments, sometimes you cannot even uh, predict how the crisis results will affect you
mhm,
at the corporate level.
mhm,
We can give an example from the COVID crisis. Actually, what happened during COVID crisis? Hotels, airline companies, all of them were on the losing side, whereas e-commerce companies, pharmaceuticals, they were enjoying a great welfare and prosperity due to the sales directed directly towards those companies. So this situation also creates a variance in the expectations from the public. People expect greater efforts, CSR efforts from the winning companies.
mhm. Why were you interested in studying consumer reaction to CSR communication, especially during a crisis?
I became interested in this particular research stream during the COVID pandemic, because during the COVID pandemic, I noticed that COVID is not the only case in our era, particularly. We are almost living in an era of global crisis. Today, when you look at it, before the COVID, we had wildfires, right, all around the globe. Then after COVID, we got Ukraine-Russia war. Today, the events going on in Palestine. And all those things together are actually a creating an environment in which companies are feeling even greater pressure to perform CSR activities and communicate them for reputational benefits. So to investigate how those communications can be pursued in a more feasible ways to both benefit the society and the companies together was a substantial topic, and it was crucial to investigate those matters. So I decided to pursue a research stream in this particular regard.
Okay. For your PhD research, you conducted several studies. Can you share what those studies were and what you learned?
Surely. We conducted 6 studies in this particular research. The first study looked at the main, we call it main effect academically, the effect of winning, losing status from company side on people's reactions to company CSR communications. We looked at the Twitter data, and we collected more than 68,000 CSR related tweets from companies during the COVID pandemic. And we looked at people's reactions to those tweets based on the company's winning and losing status. To be able to analyze those sentiments, we used Luke linguistic inquiry and word count algorithm. This was the first study, and in the second study, this time we changed the context and we looked at a different scenario. This was Brazilian supply crisis from 2018. The mechanism was the same. Again, we looked at winning, losing status, the effect of winning, losing status on people's reactions to CSR communications. In the other study, this study, I think one of the most interesting ones in this particular research, we looked at small businesses during COVID again. And this time, together with the same mechanism in which winning, losing status and people's reactions, we also looked at the sincerity of those communications, perceived sincerity of those communications in this as a mediating factor in this mechanism. We saw that in all those 3 studies, we saw that winning companies are highly criticized after they communicate their CSR activities, because people in the third study, it was shown that people don't think that those communications are actually sincere when the communications come from a winning, perceived to be winning, let's say, company. Even in the third study, when we investigated the small businesses, people's perceptions were totally different. Normally, you would expect that small businesses would receive unconditional support, right? Because it was a sentiment in Canada. People were encouraged to support small businesses during the COVID, but it wasn't the case. When a small business was perceived to be on the winning side of the equation, people didn't like it at all. People thought that the company, even if it was small, when the company was trying to communicate their CSR actions, they were insincere. They were just pursuing their own reputational benefit, and they gave them an extreme backlash. In the fourth study, this time we changed the context. This time we went to Turkey for Turkey's wildfires. In that study too, we incorporated the size factor into the situation. We saw that particularly large winning companies are suffering from this mechanism the most. So large winning companies' CSR actions are criticized the most. And in the fifth study, again, changing the context to Ukraine-Russia war, we saw that if large winning companies want to reverse the tables, they want to change the situation on their own favor, for their own favor, they have to communicate their in-kind donations rather than their financial donations, because in-kind or material donations communicate greater effort from the corporate side. And when there's effort, there is sincerity combined with that simultaneously. So they could only fix this situation by communicating their in-kind donations to a greater extent than their monetary donations.
Okay. So you made very interesting observation. Why do you think consumer in general don't like those winning companies? You know, they seems to be financially benefiting during this crisis.
Oh yeah, Oh yeah, surely. So when when there's a paradox, almost like it's a paradoxical thinking style. So those companies are under greater pressure, right? And there are two things apply there. Expectations. Number one, expectations. So the public attributes greater expectations to those companies. They expect them to return to the communities to a greater extent. But once those companies literally perform the behavior that the public was expecting from them, that behavior is directly attributed to expectation conforming behavior.
Okay.
So they say that the company is doing this because there was already salient expectations from the public, and they are doing that for confirming the public's expectations to gain reputational benefits. The second thing is effort. When the company, so when there are expectations, there are also effort expectations too. The public expects corporate organizations to put in greater efforts. And when the company is winning from the crisis environment, they are on a stronger position. So the effort should be even stronger. Effort should be even greater. That is put in the crisis relief actions. However, when two companies, losing and winning companies, put the same effort, winning companies definitely punished to a greater extent. It is because public directly think that, okay, this company has greater resources, they could do better than that. So whatever effort those companies puts into the situation, their effort is always minimized and discredited. That's why we call this research winner's misery. It is because whatever winner companies do, it doesn't matter, especially in the crisis environments. They do anything, but the public will not accept it due to the expectation conforming perceptions and also effort minimization tendencies.
Yeah. Do you think it's also there is a common behavior people have? They always try to support the underdog.
Yes, exactly. Okay, this is the other thing. So it also applies. So the underdog situation, underdog perceptions particularly applies in when the size also incorporated in the mechanism as a moderator. So particularly small size companies, as the literature tells us, are seen as underdogs, right?
Yeah.
If you are small size and losing at the same time, you are an extreme underdog. So people inherently try to support you. So your behavior, your CSR behavior is highly valued. But if you are winning and large, you are definitely not an underdog. You are top dog. And top dogs will always be approached with greater criticism and expectations, right? Regardless of what they do, it is not going to matter. This is the situation. The interesting part here is that we apply the same thinking style, same approach in our day-to-day dyadic relationships with other human beings, actually. So this social structure is directly applied to the companies too.
Yeah. So based on your research, how should companies communicate their CSR efforts during a crisis?
100%. So the thing is, as I explained in my sixth study, large winners are under greater threat in terms of people's perceptions, right? And their CSR communications are always attributed to selfish reasons and deemed to be insincere. In that situation, we try to solve this dilemma for the large winners, and the company should look at two different things when it comes to communicating their CSR actions during a crisis. Number one, how the public perceives me as a company. Am I on the winning side in the eyes of the public or on the losing side? Secondly, am I a big company or small company? If I was unfortunate enough to combine those two things, winning and being large at the same time, and trying to communicate my CSR actions, the company should know that they will probably be criticized and deemed to be insincere in their communications. To solve this dilemma, the company should communicate their in-kind or material donations rather than talking about giving $5 million of financial support to communities in the suffering regions, right? The company should communicate the same statement with probably formulating the words in a different way, such as, we are donating $5 million worth of food or material, equipments to the suffering communities.
Mm.
So the word can be the same, the money can be there again, it doesn't matter, but the final product that is delivered should be materials
Right.
rather than the financial assets such as money, etc.
So what you're saying is this, so when company gave those kind, people see that the kind go directly to the people who are affected during that crisis.
This is
So-
one of the this is one of the reasons as to why they think that this is more sincere. And also for large winners, the literature tells us that for large winner companies, people perceive those companies to have almost no time because they are very busy, they are very large, they don't have any other time to set aside from their corporate business. When those companies perform those in-kind donations, they require employee time, they require organization time, they require other people from the within the organization to come together and invest effort and time together for the communities, right? So they're pretty much stopping what they do, but they allocate that corporate time for the communities. In this situation, the previous efforts perceptions for those companies, which was actually deemed to be very low, becomes very high suddenly because people see that large winners are setting aside their corporate time and resources for the communities.
Yeah, I think this makes sense because now I see a lot of companies, they when they do the corporate social responsibility effort, they try to communicate a lot these days, make it very obvious that they're doing in the community so people can see it. You know what I mean? Try to make it more obvious. Hey, we are in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and like, I think they're trying to find a shortcut in that, and they're trying to articulate the potency, the amount of the contributions directly by indicating the financial worth of the communication, worth of the contribution, right? People don't want to see the money there. People want to see the effort. So just communicate your efforts. I think it's gonna be much better for large winners of crises.
Because I think efforts is more involved. Money is there's no
psychologically more
heart to
distant.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because money is like almost like a very quick thing to do. I mean, you can just send the money and you are done. If you want to contribute through financial assets, just send the money, you are done. But for the in-kind contributions, that's a different story. Because
this allows you to be part of the community, get to see their issues and involve with them, I guess.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
people see, very nice.
You are just one of us right now. You are the part of the community almost because now you are here with us. You lowered that psychological distance. You are one-to-one with people, and now you are delivering food in food banks. It's a totally different story than purchasing the food and send there, right? It's like as you get closer to the people, you become one of them, and then whatever you do is even more sincere.
Build more relationship that way.
Yes, exactly.
Do you have advice to researchers who wish to conduct similar types of studies?
I do have. Obviously, my research too, like it is an inherent quality for all the research pieces. My research too has some limitations. One of them was that actually we didn't look at the crisis scenarios in which we didn't differentiate between crisis scenarios in which there were mortalities and no mortalities, because mortality, when the mortality exists there, it also amplifies a feeling that we call mortality salience. So people become more meticulous in their decisions in that regard, right? That's number one. Number two, cultures. In different cultures, people's approach to achievements can differ, especially between Western and Eastern cultures. Winner companies can be seen as achievers, high achievers in some cultures, and can be even rewarded for their achievements, regardless of what they do during the crisis. In Western cultures, when we look at that, underdogs are valued, and underdog stories and underdog achievements are valued to a greater extent, especially in the United States. And many companies are actually using their underdogs as the narratives to communicate with public. For example, one of them is Apple, right? How they started from a garage, then they got bigger. Amazon the same way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they like those cultures, like those underdog stories.
Yeah.
But in some other cultures, they may not even work at all. So
Right.
there is no cultural differentiation
Okay.
in my perspective.
Mhm.
Other thing is the controllability. This is the final
Mhm.
thing probably in my mind for now. Controllability of the crisis.
Mhm.
Some crisis could be actually probably prevented before. But when it comes to the other crises such as COVID, there is no controllable aspects in that.
Mhm.
No one started the crisis.
Mhm.
Uh, One final thing, again, in line with the controllability issue, uh, yes, some crises are natural and they occur due to natural reasons,
Mhm.
such as COVID and etc. And all of the crises actually that I looked at in this research was due to the reasons that wasn't under the control of any corporate organization. But some
Mhm.
of the crises are actually under the control of the corporate organizations, such as BP's environmental pollution crisis or Volkswagen's
Yeah.
carbon emission crisis, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What will happen in that situation, whether the company wins or loses from the crisis that they caused, is still a question mark.
Yeah.
I think the future research can look into it.
Okay. You successfully defended your
Yeah,
PhD last July, and you had your convocation ceremony yesterday.
yeah.
Congratulations, Dr. Yanit.
Thank you.
How does it feel to graduate?
Oh, it feels great. It feels great to not be a student anymore, to be honest. And it took like 5 years for me to graduate from my PhD program.
Mhm.
Uh, I can also give some advices for the future students that are starting their PhD journey.
Yeah.
The first thing first, I think the most important thing in this journey, is
Yeah.
that research should incorporate, research should uh, encapsulate a greater portion of
Yeah.
their journey,
Yeah.
right? I would strongly suggest to the new PhD students that they should maybe not, I don't want to say, don't, obviously they have to take some coursework,
Yeah.
but coursework is not the most important thing in the
Mm.
PhD.
Mhm.
Even from the early years of their PhD journey, they can start with research activities. They should definitely take this opportunity. This is number one. Number two is, even I think it should be even before the number one, but number two is selecting the right school and right advisor, because the label of the school will follow them throughout the journey, even during especially, actually, particularly during job search stage.
Yeah.
And in the academy, as you also know how
Yeah.
elitist it is, the label of the school matters the most, almost
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
And the advisor should have aligning goals and motivations with
Mhm.
the students, because
Mhm.
this is such a uh, difficult journey in an uncharted territory,
Mhm.
and no one deserves being left alone. So
Mhm.
the advisor and students collaboration should be strong, at least,
Yeah.
with aligning goals and motivations.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for your time, Mehmet. Have a
You are
great
very
rest of the
welcome.
day.
My pleasure for you too. Thank you very much.